it's Nicole. Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I am partnering up with Cirque Colors to share their new Daydream collection as well as their Old Flames duo. The Daydream collection features 7 nail polishes in a variety of finishes, and they're inspired by all things ethereal and imaginative. If you listened to me yap at any point last year, you would know that I am a really big fan of Cirque's Crelly formula. In my personal opinion, I do think that Cirque has the best Crellys on the market, and I'm really excited that they're releasing some new Crelly shades to their lineup. And the Old Flames duo features 2 nail polishes that Cirque had previously released that they are bringing back. And the Old Flames duo features 2 thermal nail polishes that are perfect for Valentine's Day, and these are going to be brought back as a permanent part of Cirque's core lineup. I will get more into all the pricing and sale information of things at the end of the video. If you want to pick up either of these releases or anything else on the Cirque Colors website, you can of course use my handy dandy affiliate code, which is just Nicole Loves Nails. That will save you 10% off of everything on the website. And thank you very much to Cirque Colors for sponsoring today's video. I greatly appreciate the support. So as always, in the description box, links to where you can pick these polishes up, links to the brand's website, social media pages, my social media pages, and of course timestamps are down there as well. Let's just get right into this video. All right, let's start off with the Daydream collection. If you're unfamiliar with Crelly formulas, I do just want to quickly explain what they are. So just basically picture if a opaque cream nail polish had a baby with a jelly nail polish that is sheer. So you just kind of combine the two and you have a Crelly. Crellys have that same kind of squishy look that you usually think of for a jelly finish nail polish, but they have significantly more opacity than a jelly nail polish, where jellies, you can't reach full opacity with them. With the Crelly, sometimes yes, you can reach full opacity with them, and other times like you're just shy of reaching full opacity. And the first polish up is called Cirrus, and Cirque describes this one as a dusty periwinkle blue nail polish. Cirrus also had a fantastic formula. This is going to be one of those nail polishes that you can wear in 1, 2, or 3 coats. If you just want like a sheer wash of color, 1 coat and you are good. If you want to build a bit more color on the nail, 2 to 3 coats. I found this applied really nicely and very evenly as well. I do find with Crelly shades that they're kind of similar in application to a jelly nail polish, so it's going to depend on your level of thickness on your coats with how much opacity you're going to end up with. When I think of as like a normal thickness of coats, I found that for Cirrus in 3 coats, I was just shy of reaching full opacity with it. I do think that if I worked in thicker coats, I could probably make this 100% opaque without losing that kind of squishiness level. I personally really like this shade in 2 coats, but for my live swatches and my full hand swatch, I will be showing this one built up in 3 coats. I did find that for Cirrus, even when built up in 3 coats, it still has that really nice squishy look on the nail. Like you can very clearly tell that this is indeed a Crelly. It does not look like a cream, which is all I ask for from a Crelly shade. Because this is a Crelly, it's going to be super duper easy to remove. I do agree with the brand's color description for this shade. This is a dusty periwinkle blue. However, I did find that this leans just like slightly towards a purple tone in some lighting. In my personal opinion, this is absolute perfection in 2 to 3 coats. This is very much what I think of as like a periwinkle shade. I find frequently with periwinkles, I always go back and forth on whether or not I think they're a blue or a purple, and that this is definitely in that camp. And it does also have just like a slight grayed outness to it. We have a Rue in her coat. Say hi, Roo. Everybody's outside playing, and Roo does not like being outside in the snow. Thank you for joining me, Roo. You can sit with Mama, okay? It's going to remove similarly to a cream or a jelly finish nail polish. The next polish up is called Sage, and Cirque describes this one as a sage/succulent green Crelly nail polish. This is another very cool tone shade. Once again, I found this one had a really good formula, and once again, you can choose to build this one up in however ways you want. I did notice that between the second and the third coats, on top of gaining more opacity with the third coat, it does deepen up the base color quite a bit. I do agree with the brand's color description for this particular shade. It is very much in that kind of like sagey, succulent green color family. As someone who's not the biggest fan of pale greens, I feel like the slight blue tone this shade has, as well as the richness in the overall color of the polish, I really can vibe with this particular one, especially when paired with the toppers in this release. My full hand swatches here are showing Sage built up in 3 coats on its own plus glossy top coat. This polish does dry down really glossy on its own, but as always, wear top coat. For personal wear, I feel like I would likely only wear this one in 2 coats. I like the level of like sheerness and opacity that I had in 2 coats. I found for the 3rd coat, I was at like 90, maybe 95% opacity with it. And again, it did not lose the squishiness factor even when built up in 3 coats. And once again, it's going to remove super duper easily because it is acrylic. And the next polish up is called Whimsy, and Cirque describes this one as a neutral mauve pink acrylic nail polish. And just like all the other acrylics in this release, Whimsy had a fantastic formula, and again, I think you can apply this one in 1, 2, or 3 coats. I personally think the sweet spot for this particular shade is definitely in 2 coats. I feel like I like this one more in 2 than I liked it in 3. I feel like the opacity level that I was able to get with this particular shade in 3 coats is like at 95% opacity, I would say. I think this is another one that if you really want to get this one to reach full opacity, go in for slightly thicker coats. But in my, what I think of as normal thickness of coats, I did have visible nailing with this shade in 3 coats. I once again do agree with the brand's color description for this shade. I do think that this is a very kind of neutral mauve color. I feel like colors like this are what I kind of think of as like office appropriate neutrals. Not my personal vibe, but I do think this one looked really great paired with the toppers in this release. So shocker, Nicole liked a color she doesn't normally like because she put some sparkle on top of it. I feel like this is definitely the kind of shade for like all of the people who absolutely love neutrals. Not my personal vibe. While this particular color isn't my personal vibe, I do feel like this is a color that I see look great on a lot of different skin tones. Nothing here is going to dry down textured. It's acrylic, super easy to remove. And similar to the other polishes in this release, this does dry down with a very kind of glossy, squishy kind of look on, but my full hand swatches do include glossy top coat. 1 coat of Cirque's Looking Glass top coat. The next polish up is one of the magnetic polishes in the collection, and it's called Imagination Station. And Cirque describes Imagination Station as a dusky, warm, purple magnetic nail polish with a super fine silvery white magnetic pigment. Imagination Station had a fantastic formula. I feel like unmagnetized, this particular shade gives off like very vintage nail polish-y kind of vibes to me. As you're applying this one, you do see that the magnetic pigment does cause the polish to have some brush strokes. It looks very kind of pearlized vibes a bit, especially when wet. The kind of brush strokes that you see through the magnetic pigment do disappear as this one dries down. I was able to reach full opacity with Imagination Station in 2 coats. However, I do think if you're going to magnetize this particular shade, I would recommend adding a 3rd coat. I do find that for this particular shade in 2 coats, when you magnetize it, I feel like it just shears out a little bit too much for my personal taste. If you guys can hear my husband outside on his tractor, I'm sorry. For my swatches for this video, I use the Cirque Colors Lucky Horseshoe Magnet, which is their new 20-pound magnet. And I also use their Fatal Attraction Magnetic Wand. The Lucky Horseshoe Magnet gives you that beautiful velvet effect, and then the Fatal Attraction Wand gives the cat eye effect. For my full hand swatches, my pointer finger is unmagnetized in 2 coats, my middle finger is magnetized with the horseshoe effect, and then my ring finger and pinky are magnetized with the cat eye effect. I found this magnetized super duper easily. For my full hand swatches, I held the magnet on for somewhere between 30 to 60 seconds. I didn't set a timer this time, so I don't know how long I really sat there for, but I'm fairly confident it was somewhere between 30 and 60 seconds. As is fairly typical for these kind of magnetic pigment polishes, I do find this one darkens up significantly when you magnetize it. The lightness that you see in the bottle is largely coming from the magnetic pigment. I am currently undecided on if I like this one better with the velvet effect or the cat eye effect. I'm leaning strongly to the velvet effect just because I generally prefer the velvet effect. And I do agree with the brand's color description for this shade. It is very much a dusky, warm toned purple. Unmagnetized, it looks fairly light. I do find that once you magnetize this one, the base does darken up quite a bit. Nothing in here is going to dry down textured. Removal is going to be super duper easy, and I did not personally experience any staining. The next polish up is another magnetic shade, and it's called Phantasm. And Cirque describes this one as a light sea foam / sea blue green magnetic nail polish with a super fine turquoise magnetic pigment. For whatever reason, as soon as I saw this particular shade, it immediately made me think of Squidward. And I don't think this is like the exact color of Squidward, but I feel like it's Squidward centric. Like I feel like this is within a color family that could potentially be Squidward. Phantasm also had a fantastic formula. It does start off a little bit sheer on that first coat. This is going to be another kind of magnetic that I would recommend building up in coats, but it does have a very nice and easy and smooth formula, and it self-levels really nicely. For this particular shade, I feel like unmagnetized, depending on your thickness of coats, I feel like this is opaque in 2. I'm going to call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on your application style and your personal preference on if you magnetize it or not. I found on my nails, I needed that third coat to reach full opacity when I was doing my live swatch. When I was doing my full hand swatches, 3 of my nails were opaque in 2, and then 1 definitely needed that third coat to reach full opacity. So depending on thickness of coats, 2 to 3 coater to reach full opacity with it. However, for all of my magnetization, I did magnetize on the 3rd layer. Y'all know I am a lazy magnetizer, so I only magnetize my nail polishes on the 3rd coat. I feel like anything more than that is just doing too much. But one thing I just find with magnetic polishes is it's gonna come down to a lot on like your own personal application style. The magnetic pigment in here is super, super, super fine. I did find, once again, unmagnetized when the polish is still wet, a little bit of brush strokiness through the magnetic pigment, but that does disappear as the polish dries down. And I found this magnetized super duper easily, both with the cat eye effect as well as with the velvet effect. Similar to the other magnetic nail polish in this release, I did use the Cirque Lucky Horseshoe Magnet to do the velvet effect and their Fatal Attraction wand for the, what's that called again? For the cat eye effect. Surprisingly, I actually like this one more with the cat eye effect. This is not really a color or tone that I personally strongly gravitate towards, but there was something about the way this magnetizes in the cat eye effect that I found very pleasing to my eye. This is also a really interesting color. Other than being like a pale Squidward color, I'm having a hard time describing what color I think this polish is. I see where the brand was going with saying this is a light seafoam / slate blue. It has that seafoamy green, but it also has like a bit of gray to it as well. And it's definitely kind of cool tone, so you're just getting kind of like a tinge of blue. So that's the color. That's it. For my full hand swatches, my pointer finger is unmagnetized, my middle nail is magnetized with the velvet effect, and then my ring finger and pinky are magnetized with the cat eye effect. My full hand swatches also show 1 layer of glossy top coat with this shade, and I did use the Cirque Looking Glass top coat. This is turning into one of my go-to top coats to use with magnetic nail polishes because it doesn't have toluene in it, and I don't find that it causes the magnetic pigments to get like dispersed once I add my layer of top coat. I didn't want to believe y'all when y'all said that toluene-free top coats are better for magnetics. I didn't want to believe.
None of it's true. None of it's true. It's BS. They made it up. They lie.
Unfortunately, it's true. It's true. So yeah, I am a converter. Or converter? Yeah. Converter. We're gonna go with that one. This polish does dry down a little bit flat and dull, so you will in fact want top coat to bring some life back to the polish, but it's gonna be super duper easy to remove. If you were saying to yourself that this release was missing some sparkle, I got you. Here are some sparkly toppers.
Finally!
So first up from the toppers, we have Dream Walker, and Cirque describes this one as a sheer purple nail polish topper with a fuchsia to gold to green color shifting aurora shimmer and a delicate holographic sparkle. Dreamwalker also had a fantastic formula, as is typical for this brand. While the brand does say that this has a purple tinted base, you can see that in the bottle it is indeed purple tinted. Once you put this on your nail or on top of some other polish, I don't find that you're gonna get like much of that tint on the nail. So you can definitely still use this polish over a whole variety of colors without having any issues of it kind of like tinging the overall look of the base color. These shimmer color shifts in here are exactly as described. This is for everyone like me who likes color shifty goodness. I did find that the predominant color that you're gonna see on your nail is gonna be the kind of like pinky gold color shift, and then you're gonna get the gold coming in at more extreme angles. If you pair this with a significantly darker base color, I do think you're gonna see that green a lot more easily. But you can wear this over any color that you want. I do find that in 3 coats on its own, while the shimmer in here is super strong and super glowy, because it's a topper, you're still gonna have very obvious visible nail line. However, I did find that built up in 3 coats, the shimmer in here is so strong that in like lower lighting and not like super bright direct lighting, the shimmer is gonna hide your visible nail line a little bit, but you're still gonna be able to see it relatively easily. So if you don't mind visible nail line, but you like a really strong shimmer, this definitely can be worn on its own. For my full hand swatches, we're gonna be seeing this one on my pointer finger and middle finger is built up in 3 coats on its own. On my ring finger is in 1 coat over Cirque's 1 coat black Memento Mori. And then on my pinky nail, we have it in 1 coat over Cirrus. I absolutely love this topper. It is so freaking pretty. The holographic in here is both delicate, but also still very obvious. You're gonna get like a really nice subtle twinkle. In my personal opinion, while the holographic in here is very obvious, the shimmer is definitely going to be the star of the show. you're just gonna get like a nice twinkle of holo. The holographic in here does dry down just slightly textured. I did find one layer of top coat smooths everything out really nicely. I don't think the holographic is gonna make things overly difficult to remove because the particle size is so very tiny, but it is going to be on the more messy side, especially if you scrub this one off because of the holographic as well as the shimmer. The next polish up is called Mirage, and Cirque describes this one as a sheer pink nail polish topper with a blue-violet color shifting aurora shimmer and a delicate holographic sparkle. Similarly to the last nail polish topper, I did find that while the base on this is tinted, I did not find that you can really see that tint on your nail. I found both over my naked nail as well as over a variety of colors. I wasn't really seeing a pink tinge to the polish, so I feel like it's going to be just like color that you see in the bottle, but it doesn't really translate onto the nail. The shimmer in here is again super duper strong. I did, however, find while the brand describes this one as a blue to violet shimmer, I did find that on the nail, I was seeing blue to violet and like a hint of pink at very extreme angles. I did find that for Mirage, when built up in 3 coats, it had a little bit less opacity to it than Dreamwalker did. But again, this is a nail polish topper, so you can choose to wear it built up on its own, wear it as a topper over a whole variety of colors. And again, I do not find that the kind of pink tint that you see in the bottle, I don't find that translated all onto the nail. Similar to the last shade, I did find that the holographic sparkle in here is super duper delicate and fine. I could very easily see it on my nail, but again, the shimmer is 1000% the star of the show, so the kind of holo is kind of like in the backdrop of the shimmer. Holographic does give a very slight texture on the nail, and again, one layer of the Cirque Colors top coat smooth this out perfectly. My fully on swatches from Mirage show the polish in 3 coats built up on my pointer and middle nails. My ring finger is in 1 coat over black, and then my pinky nail is in 1 coat over Cirrus. And again, super duper easy removal. The glitter is not going to give you too much difficulty at all because it's so very tiny, but it is going to be a messy removal if you scrub this one off. Also launching alongside the Daydream collection, we have the Old Flames Duo. The Old Flames Duo features 2 previously discontinued thermal nail polishes from the brand. These are going to be a permanent addition to the Cirque Colors catalog. First up from the Old Flames Duo, we have Mushroom Kingdom, and Cirque describes this one as a thermal nail polish that changes from a red when cold to a bright pink when warm. And the brand does also note that you might see a berry bright pink in between both color states. Mushroom Kingdom had a really great formula. I did find that for Mushroom Kingdom, this applies very similar to something between being a crelly and a cream. I didn't find that it's quite as opaque as a cream. It very leans kind of in the crelly department because of it's a slightly more sheer, but it doesn't have like the squish factor that I think of as a crelly shade. I found this one to be very reactive on me. In the coldest state, I do agree with the brand, it is a red. I do find for that particular tone of red, it leans a bit more in the kind of pinky red family. Not so much so that I would definitely say, yes, it's 1000% a pinky red. I feel like depending on how cold your nail is, it's gonna go anywhere from like a red to like a pinky red. In the warmest state, I found it's like a bright pink shade. Like, they didn't say it's neon, but like it is a very bright pink. I did notice that like in between both of those color states, on my nail, I was finding that it was leaning a bit more in the corally department. I wasn't seeing like a berry red shade or what I think of as like a berry red shade. I was seeing something more on the lines of like a reddish corally kind of color. For this particular shade, I did find that I was able to reach full opacity with the shade in the cold state in 2 coats. However, I found in 2 coats for the warm state, I still had fairly obvious visible nail line. Coverage was still really even, however, so like I'm gonna call it a 2 to 3 coater, depending on your own personal preference. The 3rd coat does add more opacity to the warmest state. However, I still had some visible nail line that I could see, and I could in fact still see a bruise that I have on one of my nails. So I don't find that the warmest state you're gonna reach full opacity with it. I'm gonna call it like 90-ish% opacity. And again, I found this one to be super reactive. It changed very easily for me. My hands are currently ridiculously warm for some reason, and I found this one changed on me super duper easily as well. Nothing here is gonna dry down textured. The polish, however, does dry down a little bit dull, so you will in fact want some glossy top coat to bring life back to the polish, but it's gonna be removed super duper easily. And the final nail polish is called Enchanted, and Cirque describes this one as a tri-color color thermal nail polish that changes to a vivid purple when cold. In the mid state, it's going to be a light lavender, and then in the warmest state, it's going to be a very pale lilac. Enchanted also had a fantastic formula. This one in the warmest state is quite a bit more sheer than the last shade. So for this particular shade, I would actually recommend building this one up in 3 coats. If you've been wondering what's been on my hand this whole video, it's that particular polish. This is actually my second time swatching this particular shade out. Because of the colors of this particular polish, I personally find that when wearing this one, you're gonna get a whole variety of colors on your nails. The darkest color state is a very kind of warm leaning purple shade. The darkest color state is a very warm leaning violet shade. And I found for the lightest color that you're gonna get from the warm state is a very sheer, pale, kind of almost like, it's almost kind of like the palest shade of purple you can get before you start venturing towards like a white or a clear. It's a very, very pale color in the warmest state. So because you have such a variety between the coldest state and the warmest state, I find that when wearing this one, you're gonna get a variety of like tones of purple. It's gonna be warm to all the way down to cool. My nails aren't quite long enough today to be able to really showcase all 3 states together at the same time. But I do remember from the last time that I swatched this shade out, I was able to get all 3 color states. There's also like this kind of like vibrant bluish purple color that gets thrown in there. You are able to reach full opacity with this shade in the coldest state. However, in the warm state, you're gonna have very obvious visible nail line. Nothing in here is gonna dry down textured. Removal is gonna be super duper easy. Because both of the thermals in this release are basically kind of like what I think of as like a cream thermal, because both of these polishes are what I think of as like a kind of cream thermal or like a plain thermal. You can choose to layer any of these polishes up with any of Cirque's really fun toppers. There should be a swatch wheel on the screen right now showcasing some of my favorite toppers to pair with these 2 particular polishes. But again, sky's the limit for toppers, as you all know. Alrighty, let's do some comparisons. So first up right here, we have Whimsy from this new release. For Whimsy, the most similar things that I had color-wise to Whimsy in my collection right here, we had Spotted in Soho, which is actually a cream finish polish. And then right here, we have Rosewood Jelly, which is a jelly nail polish. So out of these 3 shades, I do think color-wise it is indeed similar to Rosewood Jelly, but Rosewood Jelly is darker in color and also it's a jelly finish nail polish, so it's not going to be exactly the same as a Crelly. These all show the polishes in 2 coats, by the way. These swatches show all the polishes in 2 coats, and we have like a white background here, so these 2 are looking quite a bit more opaque than they are in actual real life. To compare Sage, I pulled out Sweet Mint, which is a Crelly shade that Cirque released, I believe, last year. And then right here we have Jade Jelly, and then right here we have Central Park After Dark, which is a cream shade. For Sage, I feel like it is indeed similar color-wise to Jade Jelly, but it is a Crelly finish, so the finish is different. And I feel like it also has a bit stronger of like a more bluish toned. And again, these swatches are in 2 coats. Sage does come off a bit darker than Jade Jelly does. And again, the finish is different and the color is also different between these 2 shades. To compare Cirrus, I pulled out Morning Tide as well as Cherub. I believe both of these polishes were also described as being Crelly, so I feel like this is good to see like 3 of Cirque's Crelly side by side. Cirrus is obviously significantly darker than the other 2 shades, and it also leans a lot more towards that kind of like grayish kind of tone. These 2 shades I feel like are very fitting for, you know, like what you think of as like spring pastels, and this one is more like rainy day spring pastel. To compare Phantasm, I pulled out Good Vibes Only, Vidure, which I still can't say properly, and Mind Over Matter. These were all of like the kind of like greenish bluish toned magnetics that I had from the brand. You can really see like the individual particle sizes of the magnetic pigment a lot more than you can see in Phantasm. Cirque did describe the magnetic pigment in here as being a very fine pigment, and I feel like in comparison to these more, I'll call them sparkly in comparison, but I wouldn't say that these are like sparkly magnetics. But in comparison, because the pigment size is larger, like they look sparkly in comparison to Phantasms. But as you can see, Phantasm also is quite a bit, it's lighter in color and a lot more kind of like grayish toned. For this comparison, I wanted to compare the 2 toppers in this release to Slow Burn, which was released about a year ago. So all 3 of these polishes are all color shifty Aurora pigment shimmers with additional holographic. So for my swatch here, I have it in 1 coat over both white and black. I feel like it's getting a little bit washed out over the white background, so I just want to put it here with my hand here so you can kind of see the colors better. Obviously, the blue to violet one is not going to be the same color-wise as the other 2 shades. Dreamwalker compared to Slow Burn are fairly similar, but I feel like Slow Burn, especially over black, you can see it has a bit more of a reddish lean to it, where Dreamwalker is more pink toned. Here is another angle at these three toppers side by side, and I just want to give you some kind of movement shots too, so you can see like the color shiftiness level. Next up, to compare Imagination Station, I pulled out Clairvoyant, Flora, and Tender Touch. I thought these were going to be the most similar color-wise to this particular polish. And similar to the last magnetic comparison, I feel like you can really see like how fine particle size this particular magnetic pigment is in comparison to all of these ones over here. In comparison to Clairvoyant, I feel like Imagination Station has a bit kind of, not necessarily like a brown lean, but I feel like in comparison to it, it just looks a little bit kind of more brownish. I feel like that kind of taupe lean that the brand described this one as, I feel like you can very more clearly see that kind of taupey brownness in comparison to Clairvoyant, which is why I opted to pull out Tender Touch, because this is the only kind of like brownish one that I had. Aside from the color being different between all four of these and the magnetic pigment also being different between them, I feel like this is almost as if it's like a baby between Clairvoyant and Tender Touch. It's not a baby between them, but like I feel like if these two got together, their offspring would probably look something like this. So I didn't have any magnetics from Cirque that I thought were going to be similar to Mushroom Kingdom, so I pulled out Blushing Queens, which was the most pinky red toned cream that I had from the brand. And then I also pulled out Valley of the Dolls, which I thought was going to be most similar to the polish in the warm state. So here is Mushroom Kingdom next to Blushing Queens in the cold state. And then here is Mushroom Kingdom next to Blushing Queens and then Valley of the Dolls in the warm state. Similar to the last comparison, I didn't have another thermal from Cirque that I thought would be terribly similar to Enchanted. So I pulled out two jelly nail polishes that I thought were going to be similar color-wise. So right here we have Ube Jelly and right here we have Haze Jelly. I don't feel like these are terribly similar to the coldest state. And then here is Enchanted next to Ube Jelly and Haze Jelly in the warm state. Still very different colors in my personal opinion. Alrighty, so final thoughts time. For the Daydream collection, I thought this release was super duper fun. I am really excited that Cirque is releasing more colors in their Crelly formula. I feel like everyone knows Cirque for their jelly polishes, but their Crellys are also really good. One of my most worn polishes last year was Cirque's Smitten. It's another beautiful Crelly shade. So I'm personally really excited that Cirque is releasing more Crellys. I also really love that Cirque is adding more of these kind of shimmer holographic toppers to their lineup. While I love me a color shifty shimmer, I feel like adding a little sparkle of holographic in there is always a plus. So I really like between all of these polishes, you can definitely kind of like layer them together and get some really cool looks on the nail. So my personal top picks from this release are going to be Dreamwalker, Color Shifty Goodness, Hollow, duh, I'm gonna like it, and Cirrus. That was the surprise. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I like that particular shade. I feel like I'm not usually kind of like a pale periwinkle kind of gal, but I just really like the kind of like dusty quality, and I like the squish factor that particular one had. And I feel like I don't even need to say which of the polishes from the Old Flames duo is my top pick. Y'all know I'm gonna go with the pink every time. Mushroom Kingdom is definitely gonna be my top pick from the Old Flames duo. I just love pink. Pink is, it's my favorite color. So yeah, I'm picking Mushroom Kingdom. As far as pricing and sale information goes, all of Cirque's nail polishes are in 11 ml bottles, and they are priced between $12.50 and $16.50. For the Daydream collection, you will be able to pick up that entire set as a bundle, and it'll be discounted 10% off, as well as the Old Flames duo, which will also be priced at 10% off if you get both polishes together. Neither of these releases are going to be limited edition. They will thankfully be around for quite a while. If you missed my review from last month, Cirque also did recently launch their new Lucky Horseshoe style magnet. If you want to get any kind of velvetizing going, that magnet is a great one to add to your cart. And again, you can get a 10% discount if you use my affiliate code, which is Nicole Loves Nails, off of anything off of the Cirque Colors website. I would love to know what everyone else thought of these releases. Are you planning on picking them up? Have you already picked them up? Let me know all your thoughts and feelings down below. Before we end today's video, I do want to give a shout out to my channel members. Shenanigans Story Fans, your names of course all on the screen right now. If you would like to sign up for my channel memberships, there is a link for that in the description box, or you can click join next to the subscribe button. But as always, just like this video, comment on the video, share the video with somebody who cares about nail polish preferably, but you can share it with whoever you want, honestly. So just thank you all for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely week, folks. Happy February, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
When I get high, I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brian. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like yeah.